Hello, my beautiful souls. So, I know it's been a little while, and I really wanted to come on and share what has been happening because I feel like I have so much to tell you. So much has been happening and kind of not happening at the same time. I have been feeling a little bit off center and feeling a really big pull to resting, to kind of just pulling back and really focusing on myself, my energy, and really specifically my body. Now, my body is something that I have, I guess, kind of been reconnecting to for the last couple of years, but more specifically the last 2 years. I have really been trying to focus on honoring and loving and looking after my body more consciously. And recently I have really been feeling a lot in my body, and this always signifies to me that there is something more going on than just the things that are happening and the things that I'm feeling, because have been feeling a lot, and I'm going to share that with you and the significance that I believe it is having, or the shift that is occurring for me personally. And in the process of me sharing my experience, as always, please take what resonates with you. Maybe you have been experiencing some energetic upgrades yourself and maybe not aware of actually that this is occurring, and maybe of what it is that's actually shifting within you. So, to kind of start this story, I need to go back and rewind to the autumn equinox, which was around the 21st of March. So, a couple of weeks ago, I think is what is the catalyst for me personally. And I kind of started to feel the shift around the autumn equinox and the changing of the seasons, getting ready to slow down, to go inward, and to really focus on connecting to myself. As a business owner, sometimes I may prioritize my business over myself. So it's really about finding a balance to be able to look after me, my energy, and more importantly, my body as well, because the first kind of signs for me of disconnection will always manifest in my body first, and if I don't listen to my body, they only get louder, which is kind of what's happened. So March 21st, I started to feel the pull to slowing down, and I kind of knew that I needed to just take a couple of weeks to not be so on, not be so switched on. And sometimes it's hard when you run a business, because you have clients that are dependent on you and you still need to show up for them. Plus, I'm in the middle of organizing my next retreat, which is happening in a few weeks' time. But I kind of knew that I had a little bit of a window where I could really slow down and start to process whatever it was that was about to happen. So it's almost like intuitively I knew that something big was shifting. And for me personally, every couple of years I feel like I have a really big energetic and emotional clearing and upgrade that happens physically. The last one was on the 22nd of February 2022, and that was a pretty big one. This one I feel is a continuation of that, but yeah, let me kind of share what's been happening. So I probably need to look at the dates, but not long after the autumn equinox, I chose to enroll myself into a voice activation course, which is something that's been on my list of intentions for 2025, was to really connect and use my voice more and be confident in sharing my voice, because I personally believe that the power of the voice is very potent, and particularly for myself because of my past and my story around my voice, and not really feeling like I ever had a voice in the past. So it's why I really am passionate about sharing my wisdom and my knowledge and these experiences with you, because there is always something that we can learn through other people's stories, and this is a part of my story. So I signed up for, I think it was around the end of March, I signed up for this voice activation course, which was allowing me to work on improving the techniques and the way that my voice sounds, or the way that I use my voice in my group healing sessions and also my one-on-one sessions as well, because my voice always wants to come out and be heard. It has a little personality of its own. So the moment that I signed up for this voice activation course, I immediately felt this sore throat come about. I think since the very first interaction, and I have had a lot of past life traumas, and I'm not going to go into the details because it's too traumatic to share that. I don't really want to trigger anyone. But my past life traumas have been around my throat, around not being able to physically use my voice or have a voice at all. My voice was always restricted because of the healing powers that it had. So as soon as I kind of started to feel this sore throat, I knew that something was shifting, and I knew that I needed to allow this just to happen. So that was the first kind of sign or symptom. The first thing that happened that I experienced, and that was let's say that was like the beginning of hang on, what date? I don't even know. Doesn't matter. Let's not use dates because dates confuse me. Actually, yeah. Now I'm looking back at the timeline and things actually started to shift before that. Interesting. Anyway, I'll keep going on my story. So the first week was all about my throat, about clearing and just allowing anything to come up through my throat. The following week, I felt a bigger shift and a bit more pain. I have been going to a new yoga studio, and this has really been so important and has been a really big kind of factor in me having a lot of these energetic shifts, because I have really been focusing on connecting to my body, and my body has been yearning for something like a new yoga practice for some time, and I recently found a studio that I fell in love with, and they really aligned with everything that I wanted. So I have been going to a few yoga classes, mainly really slow restorative classes, but I went to a yin class last week or the week before, whenever it was, and I haven't done yoga for a couple of years, I will say that. So I kind of went in there knowing that I was going to do some yin yoga, some soft practice, and I was completely open to that. But there was one particular pose where maybe my wounding or something came up where I felt that I needed to push myself more in this particular pose to, I don't know, to fit in or to be accepted in the class. Whatever the story was that was going through my mind at that time was around kind of, being the best, or who knows. Anyway, but what it did is it kind of disconnected me from my body in that moment, because I wasn't really listening to the signals that she was giving me around maybe some pain in my lower lumbar. And I had kind of put the block that you put under your spine, I'd put it up to the highest possible point, which was in hindsight too high for me, and I should have gone for the lower option, for the easier option, but instead I went for the harder option. Interesting. And I didn't really think much of it at the time during the class, and it wasn't until the next day when I was getting ready to take the dogs to the park, which is something I do every week, and I was kind of walking to the car, and I just had this really sharp shooting pain in my lower spine, and it kind of meant that I couldn't move, I couldn't bend over, I couldn't really walk normally. I was, a bit like a crippled old lady, and I kind of realized I can't actually go anywhere. I have to just go inside and rest. And that's pretty much what I did. I was physically unable to move for a few days, and I kind of thought that it was something that would just go away, but I've had a lot of lower back issues for most of my life, and there are a couple of reasons why. What I thought the reason was I've had 2 pretty big car accidents when I was in my late teens, 17 and 18. I was reckless and irresponsible and had 2 drunk driving accidents, and I kind of never really did any rehabilitation or any treatment, because I think I was just pushing those experiences down and kind of brushing them off as if they were nothing. And the first experience, but the second one that I don't really think of as being a big thing, but it was definitely bigger, is that I had cancer. I had leukemia when I was just 3 years old. And this meant that I needed to have things like a lumbar puncture, which is a needle injection into your lower spine where they take out bone marrow. And for me, this is an experience that I don't have a lot of memory, and it's something that I disassociated from, because that's just a trauma response. When something's too much, you shut it out, you avoid it, you disconnect from it. And so I feel as though it is a combination of both of those experiences, and there is some trauma and emotion attached to those experiences that is coming up for me. So yeah, I've really been feeling all of it. And then last week I got my moon cycle, my menstrual cycle on top of that. So I was feeling like it was all happening, and I was feeling really heavy, really kind of weighed down a little bit. But I know that it was my body telling me to just rest and just enjoy doing nothing, which can be really hard and really frustrating, particularly when you run a business, because you know that there are things that you have to do or should be doing, but you're physically not able to. So I have kind of just been laying low as much as possible and just really trying to look after my body. I am booked in to go and do a hot and cold therapy in the sauna and ice bath. So I'm just currently making choices that are benefiting and looking after my body, and in the process I feel as though it's benefiting me, it's benefiting my energy, and ultimately it is going to be benefiting my business and you as well, because I am in a process of upgrading, and with upgrading comes more clarity, more wisdom, more divine knowledge, and I love nothing more than being able to share this with others. This is, I guess, a big part of what I do and why I do what I do, because I want everybody to be able to have access to have the tools and the knowledge and the understanding about how to heal yourself, because we all have the ability to be able to do this. We all have the awareness of what's happening in our physical world, what perhaps is falling away or being released, or what is something that you might need to, be paying closer attention to. And something that came up for me was communication, because when I don't feel like myself, or I don't feel 100%, my first reaction is to withdraw, to kind of shut off, and to not be heard, or not be heard, or to just not show up in general. So I'm really trying to show up in the times where things are not peachy, or things feel a little bit icky or yucky or uncomfortable, all of those things, and share that it's okay to have these moments where we feel heavy or flat or disconnected. And something that really stood out for me in these experiences that have been happening is everything comes back to connection. And this is a really big thing for me because of my wounding around not being connected to my body and not being connected to my emotions or my voice or everything else that goes along with that. But what I came to understand was that in a moment of reconnection to my body, in a beautiful yoga class that I did, when I actually realized that I had been kind of forgetting about my physical connection to my body. I kind of been neglecting that connection, and it was in the moment of reconnection and feeling like, oh my gosh, it feels so good to actually come home to my body, and also a little bit emotional. But in that moment of connection, I realized that I had been disconnected. So often it takes us a little while to actually realize that we are disconnected, and what it means, or what's been happening for you. What are the signs that maybe have been trying to tell you that you need more connection, or you need to be looking after yourself, or you need to be, maybe making time for meditation or breath work, or whatever it is that you enjoy doing, or whatever it is that brings you home to yourself. So that is my little story about my journey of connection and my body kind of getting louder and louder until I actually started to listen. And yeah, I think that's the message that wants to come out. And what I will say is that maybe while you are just trying to understand the difference between connection and disconnection, just start to observe your body, start to observe how you're feeling. If you are feeling anything, or maybe you're feeling numb, or you're feeling frustrated, or you're feeling unhappy, maybe you're feeling lethargic, unmotivated, uninspired. So I know my disconnected state loves to binge watch Netflix, usually anything really, anything that's kind of mind numbing, excuse me. And in that state of disconnection, I have zero inspiration, zero motivation to get up and do anything. The housework kind of falls by the wayside, and I feel worse because I haven't done the housework, or I start to feel worse because I'm eating crap I'm, you know, sugar binging and just making kind of poor choices in that state. But I'm making choices because I think these things will make me feel better, but in fact they don't. And the things that actually make me feel better are things that generate a deeper connection to myself. Things like meditation, things like yoga, things like actually, you know, getting up and going to the park, going for a walk, or, you know, finding some inspiration and being able to take action in my business, or, you know, meditating outside in the sunshine, singing and dancing. So you can see there's a really big difference in being disconnected and the choices that you make or the way that you behave versus the alternative option. So if you take anything from this story, just start to observe your state. Are you in a disconnected state, or are you feeling connected to yourself? Just start to ask yourself that question, or become aware of the signs. So I'm going to leave that there because it went a little bit longer than I thought, but I had a lot to share, a lot to express, and I hope that you found some value in my own experience. And if anything, this is just a gentle reminder to make time to connect. And if you want to create a deeper connection to yourself, you can now download my free 7-day self-connection guide, which is available now on my website. But I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I am going to be going away for a few days, and then we have Easter come up. So I may pop back in and share a little update after Easter. So I hope you all have a fantastic time off to rest and nourish yourselves and enjoy building a deeper connection. Sending you all lots of love and gratitude for listening to this today. Bye-bye.